coming back from a race weekend, all the stress, all the traveling, how can I recover quickly? What can I do to cool down, to shut off within hours, to be able to reset and focus on the next event? All these things, because once you're in that rhythm of being lucky enough to do it professionally, you realize, man, I have a certain amount of energy, even though I've prepared all winter. During the season, that energy level slowly kind of degrades. What can I do to make that, degrade as slowly as possible and refill as much as possible between events? And all these things with experience, you maybe put a bit more effort in it, and it's hard to, again, directly see results on track. But I'm sure that in the mid to long term, these things make a big difference. And again, I've now found some people to work with that I feel like are guiding me into the right direction.
Hey Voxstar, and welcome to From Singer to Artist. I'm Lara Chapman, award-winning singer and songwriter turned viral vocal coach and the host of this show. At VoxTape Studios, we help singers from all over the world level up their voices by teaching them the 3 fundamental skills all singers need: technique, awareness, and artistry. Whether you're looking to go pro or just develop your voice for fun, my team and I are here to help. Check the link in the description to book your first session or grab some of our other resources. Alrighty, are you ready? Let's get started. Welcome back to my parents' living room, or shall I say our parents' living room, because I have my beautiful brother, Nico Mueller, with me here today. Hello.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good evening. You are right. It is currently past 9 p.m.
It's late for us.
It is very late for us. You have an almost 5-year-old son that you needed to put to bed before we could do this, because otherwise there's a lot of screaming. But thank you for being here. You are not a musician. I don't think you would consider yourself a musician.
Definitely not. No. All that talent went to your side.
Actually, you know what? Nico is a much better singer than he says he is. And also, one of my favorite things is, like, whenever I visit and you're home, we sometimes break out into a song, the same song, in the same section of the song, in the same key. For whatever reason. It is very, it's like, wow, it's weird. And I have no idea why it happens, but we are connected that way.
It definitely looks like that, yeah. At the moment, although, it's probably more the Swiss national anthem that we end up singing, because when the little man that is sleeping upstairs is winning his imaginary races, he wants the national anthem to be sung. So that's what we're doing.
Of course. Trittste Morgen roter Herr.
Seh ich dich im Strahlenmeer.
See, I told you he's a singer.
Yeah, exactly.
But your day job is not music. It's not singing. It's not music related at all. You are a race car driver.
Pretty different to music, isn't it?
Very, very, very different. But the reason why I wanted to have you on our little show is because racing, just like pursuing a career in music, is very much not the traditional thing. Not a lawyer, not a doctor, not an accountant, not any of those things. And both music and sports, because being a race car driver is sports, it requires a lot of passion and a lot of dedication, a lot of motivation, hard work, and just like persistence. Is that a word? Like not quitting.
Yeah, definitely. And it starts from a very early age, I guess. Once you discover that there is passion for that thing, for racing, for going in circles many times in a row and trying to go faster than others around you. Once that is kind of clear, and you realize what's needed to be able to make more out of it than just, a fun hobby on one or the other weekend, time by time, I don't know. Then it becomes a lot of hard work as well, definitely. And you need a lot of support. You need the right people around you to even have a chance to make it happen and to make a career out of it. And I guess we both were very lucky to be born into a surrounding that was extremely supportive from day one. But the main driving factor for me was passion on any day. I remember waking up every morning before going to school, sitting at that table and looking at karting magazines, in the early days. Every morning before going to school, it was the magazine that I have probably seen 100 times already. I would flip through those pages again.
Because they would only release one a month, right?
Exactly. So I don't know, it was just in me. I loved it, and I was really living it. And then that makes, the hard work that comes afterwards not feel like work. And I think that's really needed, because otherwise you would quit much earlier along the way, because there's no free weekends, there's no going out and enjoy the normal things with friends that go out partying on Friday or Saturday night. And but I never felt like I was missing out, because I loved what I was doing. And I felt like that was anyway much better than what the others got to do. I felt lucky every time I got to go to the track, even though there was also times where you feel pressure, and then then maybe that sort of gratitude or feeling lucky kind of goes into the background for a short amount of time, and you feel like, okay, now I'm here, I have the opportunity, I want to perform, I want to show that I can deliver, and then it's about finding that sweet spot between, okay, I got to there, but let's still enjoy it, let's not have pressure take over, and you get to learn that at a very young age, which I think is a privilege, because it teaches you lots of lessons that are valuable for different situations later on in life that maybe have got nothing to do with racing.
I remember, like, going back to, you were talking about making sacrifices. I remember when I was 10 years old, we're 4 years apart, you were 14 at that time. That was the first time you didn't come on vacation with us. And that's a pretty young age to stop going on family vacations at 14, because you had a race that you needed to go to.
That I wanted to go to.
That you wanted to go to. That you wanted to go to. But you started for racing, like that kind of environment. I would say you started pretty late, quote unquote, with go-karting. You were like, what, 12?
About like the first year where we did, the occasional race here and there, I think I was 11.
Okay.
When it was together with our cousin.
Yes.
When we, traveled to, I think it was maybe 5 races during the year, and, at a very, very basic level as well. But it kind of started when I was 11, got a bit more serious when I was 12, and I would say, gradually became more and more serious after that. Yeah. Even though during the karting years, I never thought about making a career out of it. It was more like, I loved karting. Yeah. I wanted to win. I wanted to be the best in karting, but I didn't really see, this as a preparation for a career in racing cars.
So when did that switch happen? What happened there?
Actually, I was very close to stop racing completely, because my last year of karting, when I was 15, 2007, that was, it was one of those years where probably I felt most pressure, coming back to that other topic, because I had a good year before. I won, several races. I was in contention for winning the Swiss championship, which, for the way we did, was kind of the one championship to win. Yeah. I did do the occasional European championship race, but we knew that, with the budgets and the sort of, availabilities that we had in terms of the time and effort we put in, you were never going to compete against those guys that are sitting in the go-kart 3 times a week and stuff. So for us, the goal was to win that, or for me personally, the goal was to win the Swiss championship. And in 2007, I felt like it was slipping through my hands. We didn't really perform as well as I hoped we would. We were in contention, yes, and I won the other championship, where basically exactly the same guys were competing in, just a few other guys from, around Switzerland, in France and Italy as well. So I won that championship, which was great, but still ended up missing out on the Swiss championship, which I was really frustrated about. Yeah. And also the relationship, let's say, with the people I worked with at the track was, not really going that great anymore. And I lost the fire a little bit, to be very honest, because of that. So sitting again at the same table, we were like, okay, look, it's been a great adventure, but I was close to, graduating from basically high school, I guess you would call it.
Middle school. Ninth
middle
grade?
School. Yeah.
Ninth grade?
No.
Gimmer?
Yeah, it was kind of coming up, that decision on what are you going to do after Gimmer.
After Gimmer. Okay, that's high school. Yes.
So then basically I was like, okay, it's probably better if I focus on studying and, I make something out of all these hours spent at school and stuff. And we finished that season, and then, that's racing done. But I think it was our father that came across an announcement, or whatever you would call it, of a talent scouting session in France, where you could drive a Formula car for relatively cheap. I mean, racing is never cheap, but that was, good value for the money to go and, have that experience once in life and drive a race car. And I was 15 at the time, never drove a car before, yes, I drove a car, basic normal car where probably shouldn't be driving it on the driveway in front of the house, but never anything with a clutch or having to shift gears or something. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds like a cool idea. And, he was kind of proposing it to me. Look, let's do that. And then how that would have felt and we're done.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, let's do it. I was super nervous about it because I had no clue what I had to expect there from that event. And it was a 2.5 day event. First day, just theoretical stuff. Second day, first day of driving. And this third day, it was starting to become competitive. And already after the first day, the fire was back. I was like, wow, this is amazing. That's what I want to do. And I was fast, which was obviously helpful.
That helps.
So yeah, I kind of got part of that funding, that was released during that event to help support the step up into formal cars for guys like me coming from karting. And one of the scouts at that event, his name is Andreas Jenser. He has one of the big race teams in Switzerland for junior categories.
Is he still around?
He's still around. Been there a few months ago. Went to say hi. So he was one of them, and he was like, look, man, I want you to drive in my team, and we need to find a solution. We need to make it work. And that's how it really kicked off then, from basically being done to the complete opposite within, 2 months maybe.
I honestly did not know that you were like this close to just quitting altogether. And I see this in myself. I'm a very result-driven person. If I get results, I don't really care what I do. Even if I don't really like it, I'm like, I'm getting results. I love this now. I do like what I do, so maybe I can't say that really, but either way, it's tough when you don't get the results that you're hoping, especially when it happens again and again and again and again.
Yes, I don't think that was the main driving factor, but the results were basically the result of everything that was happening, which already made me unhappy. It was not really the result itself that made me not love the sport anymore. It was the rest around it, and that automatically affected to a large extent the result on track. But it was not the result itself. If everything else was going well and I was like, okay, man, the others were just better and I finished second, fair enough. I think I could have really lived with that, to be honest. But it was the circumstances around it, the relationships with within the team and stuff, and I think I'm maybe more sensitive to that than other sports people, especially racing drivers. But I feel like if that is going well, if you manage to create a good team around yourself, if whatever it is, the mechanic, the engineer, the team boss, whoever, if you manage to create some sort of harmony, the same desire within those guys in the team, and I mean, it's probably exaggerated, but some sort of blind understanding with, how do the others feel? What does the other guy need to hear now to make him feel better, to make him perform at his best? I'm 100% convinced that has a much bigger influence on the result on track than we can measure, because that's the difficult thing. You cannot really measure that sort of thing. And racing is very numbers driven. It's all engineers sitting behind their laptops trying to make the car go fast, and it's all data based. And when then something that is not really measurable comes into play and has an effect on their work, on their results, it becomes tricky. But I think once you find the right balance between those things, that's when you become really successful.
So it sounds like it's a very, very much a mental game, racing.
It is. When you feel well, the best feeling is to feel unbeatable, which sounds a bit arrogant and stuff, but when you feel like, man, I'm in control, I have done my preparation, I couldn't have done more, I'm ready for this, I have the best people around me, I have the best car, nothing can stop me, even if then there is a guy that wins and it's maybe in front of you. I think you can accept that from time to time, and that's what probably I think is more important to understand than just wanting to be the guy winning every race. Yes, you want to win for sure, but there will be days where you lose. And in racing, because you often compete against 25, 30, 40 other guys, you more often lose than you win. Because finishing second, third, fourth, fifth is losing, basically. So
that, I always find that so funny. Every time you like the podium stuff.
Yeah.
What is that called?
the podium ceremony. Yeah.
The ceremony. The guy on the top, the winner, is always super happy. Second and third, they're always like, yay.
Exactly.
I didn't win.
Exactly. I think it really depends on the circumstances a little bit as well. But,
of course.
But black on white, there's only one winner, and we all want to win. So, yeah, I feel like accepting defeat, which again is not being on that first place, is much easier when you feel like you've done your part. When you did your job and you feel like your team has given it all and they couldn't have done any better. Someone else just on that day found that little extra. Fair enough, that happens.
Well, and I'm sure luck plays a role in it as well. If there's like safety car and things like that.
And these things that you don't have in your hand, I mean, why? How you call it? Why drool over it? Is that?
Yeah,
is that
why
the
worry
word?
about it?
Exactly,
right?
because one day you're on the lucky end, the other day you might not be. So that's how I try to see the sport. You struggle. I mean, there's always that fight within yourself, right? I mean, you're frustrated. You don't understand, why does it happen to me? And these days they happen, but when you get to breathe in, breathe out, and calm down again, that's how I try to look at things.
I see a lot of similarities to singing and to performing here. The one thing where it's a little bit different is us singers, we are not always in a competition. Like we don't do races like you do. We have singing competitions, but that's not your job. Your job is to perform, but you're not performing against other people. You're performing for people. So it's a little bit different there, but everything else, I would say there's so much overlap. So when you have a race, do you have a ritual or something that helps you, get in the right mindset to stay calm, not feel the pressure too much? Because, like when those lights go from red to green, or what is it, reds to turning off? It's like, all right, don't fuck up the start, right? That's pretty important.
That's the first thing. You try to think not in that way. You don't think about the things that could go wrong.
Yes.
You have a plan in mind on what you think is the right thing to do.
Yes.
I think that's the first step. But I guess in singing, it's exactly the same thing. You think about the right note at the right time with the right sort of power. So I think that's one first very important step. You don't really think about what could go wrong.
Okay.
You think about, that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to be the right thing. 50% of the time it's probably wrong, but at least you had a plan.
Yes.
And you kind of know how to slightly diverge from that and still make the most out of the situation you end up in.
Yeah.
I think that's the first thing I try to always have in mind. And then yes, there is very small, super boring rituals probably that are in place that I kind of go through unconsciously.
Okay.
Like, some movements before getting into the car, a very, very compact little warm up just to be sure, the body is ready for it. Yeah. We have no power steering and stuff. So, you need to make sure that you don't get your body blocked the first time you have to do some effort. So that is kind of always looking very similarly. And
a physical warm up.
A physical warm up that is to some extent also, getting the mind into the right mood, because with those movements, your body knows what's coming, because you're used to that. And then what I find very effective is being conscious about my breathing when I get into the car, and being conscious about, how fast is my heart beating, how tight is my grip on the steering wheel, do I have very sweaty hands or not? And it kind of is a bit of a reality check before really, switching the car on and leaving. Yeah. And leaving the garage, but it's not like a half an hour ritual before going. It's very short and compact, but I have these I would say tiny tricks that help me control my state of mind.
Yes.
Before pulling out on track, to make sure that I can perform at my best, because again, there's so many guys that can drive these cars fast. There's so many teams that do a good job. If the small difference is being made by being consistently performing at your best. And I think that's where it's very necessary to understand how you feel and what can you do to feel better if you don't. And that's, a short summary probably of my little...
I mean, at this point, you've driven hundreds of races. Do you know how many races you've done?
I actually don't know. I mean, there is, I guess, a website that kind of counts most of your races, but it's hard to keep up, because nowadays, at least me personally, I love to do different series at the same time. You do, say multi-championship seasons basically. So it becomes tricky to
keep track
of it. But many races, and I also have to admit, initially, you just go and do it. To be honest, I have not really had coaches around me, or I didn't really even know who to ask if I had questions about. I don't know. I don't feel good when whatever. It's 30 degrees outside, and I'm putting my fireproof stuff on, and I'm sweating in the car, and I struggle to focus, and whatever. You just, at least in my case, it was more of a learning by doing process that had to be quick, because if you get it wrong too many times, you're out.
Yeah.
And with that experience now, I feel like I've developed a good understanding of myself, what I need to perform, and what I can do to put myself into that state that feels good to me.
But there's no amount of preparation that you could have done to learn all of these things without actually getting in the car and racing, right? Because I feel like a lot of singers, they're like, oh, I need to prepare. I'm not good enough to perform yet. And they keep preparing, and they never actually do the thing. In your case, that would be never actually getting in the car and doing the race. But there's only so much you can do to prepare. At one point, you just have to go and do it to learn all of that about yourself. No?
Exactly. And also get it wrong, from time to time, because otherwise, how do you know what's right? But I think, and that's where racing is pretty different to other sports. It's very unforgiving on one side, because it's not like if I compare it to other sports before comparing it to singing, is you can't just kick a ball every day and aim at shooting your penalty or whatever and just practice the exact same thing before having to do it in competition. You can't, basically, because even practicing by yourself on a track is financially so difficult to be able to do it consistently, that you end up mainly practicing on race weekends. So you have to accept that with very limited preparation, you need to be able to perform at your best. And I guess that's to some extent different than maybe singing. But then when you stand in front of, I don't know how many thousands of people or hundreds of people, it must also feel very different. That's where racing is again different, because yes, there is thousands of people standing around the track, but when I put my helmet on and I shut the visor, I have no clue who's there. I don't want to recognize them, I don't see them. So that doesn't really affect my, let's say, performance when I'm in competition. But it's the
worry about the other racers, not really about the spectators.
Exactly. That's the other variable that then suddenly comes into play. But let's say pressure from people spectating, I don't really feel, to be honest.
One thing I would like to talk to you about, because you touched on this just now as well, is coaches. Like, you didn't really know who to ask and what to do and blah, 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 blah. Did you, you had, like Jenser, you were talking about that before, you had like maybe somewhat of like mentors, or maybe not really. How would you describe that?
To some extent, but I feel like our sport, especially when I started, and before that it must have been even more extreme, didn't really have that culture of accepting that, it's not just about a young guy having talent to drive a car and doing the job and that's it. That you can actually extract performance by guiding these people, by trying to give them advice, by analyzing how they are behaving, how they are, not only the driving, but how they feel. And I feel like I've also been in a surrounding, I don't want to say anything negative, but I've been in a surrounding where it's been very old school in terms of approach, which was good for me because it made me learn very quickly in hard circumstances. But they were very good at making the cars go fast, analyzing data and stuff. But if you had a day where you didn't perform at your best, it was just, man, everybody has these bad days. And I was like, man, no, I don't want to have a bad day when it counts.
Yeah.
What can I do to avoid that?
Yes.
And I'm 100% convinced it's possible to avoid it. Yes, there's extreme circumstances where you can't do much about it if, it's involving illnesses or whatever. But I'm not accepting that just because I didn't sleep great and I woke up with the wrong foot, which people tend to say in Switzerland, that I'm not driving well anymore. No, it's a no-go. I can do something about it. And there, I feel like the sport has evolved a lot in the last 15 years. Like there is much more availability for coaching on any sort of specific topic. You know, you have the physical aspect, you have the mental aspect, you have the actual driver coach, you know, that is not even part of the team directly, but he just goes around the track, analyzes your driving, the others, compares it, and tries to give you advice on what he thinks you can do better. Obviously, the physical preparation is a big topic because it is, even though, you know, somebody who hasn't driven a car fast on a track struggles to relate to it, but with all the G-force and, you know, we have no power steering on these cars, the heat in the cars and stuff, it becomes physical, so you need to prepare for that. But the biggest thing is the mental preparation. And I feel like, the evolution there has been great. And I've been lucky to get to know some people now that, you know, I can call up anytime, basically, and I'm working on a regular basis together with.
He was just here a couple days ago, right?
Exactly.
So he helps you with mental coaching, yoga as well, I heard. Yeah.
So, I've been playing around, I would call it, with different things in which I would sum up as preparation, or even when it comes to, you know, coming back from a race weekend, all the stress, all the traveling, how can I recover quickly? You know, what can I do to cool down, to shut off within hours, to be able to reset and focus on the next event? All these things, because once you're in that rhythm of being lucky enough to do it professionally, you realize, man, I have a certain amount of energy, even though I've prepared all winter. During the season, that energy level slowly kind of degrades. What can I do to make that, you know, degrade as slowly as possible and refill as much as possible between events? And all these things with experience, you maybe put a bit more effort in it, and it's hard to, again, directly see results on track, but I'm sure that in the mid to long term, these things make a big difference. And again, I've now found some people to, you know, work with that I feel like are guiding me into the right direction.
And you are also giving it forward too. Not only was your coach here, but a young racer as well that you're doing some mentoring for as well.
I mean, it's something on a very friendly basis at the moment, but as I'm fascinated, you know, about trying to make myself go faster and be better as a racing driver and a person, I think it's also super exciting to try and help others to do the same thing. And there's a couple friends that are, you know, involved in racing as well, that I try to, you know, support a bit with things I see, you know, could help them. And they're I'm definitely looking at, you know, doing it a bit more professionally as well with, you know, kids that are maybe, you know, just in that transition phase that I described before, from karting into cars, where the sport becomes pretty unforgivable. So let's see. I'm still fully focused on my own professional career, and that's definitely prior one. But there is some fascination for passing that experience on later on, probably.
Well, because I mean, I just saw it. It was like firsthand experience. Two examples here. One winter for like Christmas break, we were all racing on the simulator that you have back there. Is it still there? No, is it gone now?
It's downstairs.
It's downstairs now. Okay. And you were like, you know, my cousin was racing, like everybody was just giving it a go, and we would see who is the fastest. And I was pretty much the only one who you like fully coached through. You told me when to brake, when to steer, and I was the fastest one. And I had no business being the fastest one on the simulator, but you just told me exactly what to do and when to do it. And that coaching helped me so much in, you know, that racing scenario. Yesterday, we were on a boat, like a wake surfing. Is that what it's called? Wake surfing. Yeah. And I went from not being able to get up to wake surfing without the rope in pretty much 3 tries.
Exactly.
Because you told me what to do, where to put my feet, where to put my weight, and get in my knees and keep your arms straight and keep your knees bent. And there's a million things to think about, but you don't know what are all the things that you need to think about when nobody tells you. So it sounds like you had to do a lot of like just learning by doing. Yeah. And now because there's more coaching and more mentoring starting to come into the industry, the racing industry, it's going to get a little bit easier for the younger generation.
I think so. It's going to get easier maybe to have access to, that information, let's call it that way. But it's going to become even more competitive because many people now have access to that. And now it's probably going to be more about also having the best coach, not just have a coach, because there's going to be guys that have access to the same information maybe, and they also have the talent, and the level is just going to go up and up and up. And it is already very high. So I think it's exciting times, but also tough for the sport because again, it's very unforgiving. But just to touch back on your experience, and I feel like the sort of coaching experience, and I guess you can relate to that one-to-one, is interestingly, it's just as satisfying as doing it yourself.
Oh, guess why I don't really perform anymore? I get just as much joy out of it without any of the pressure. It's lovely. I don't know when was the last time that I was standing on that wake surfboard. You know what I mean? Because I have just as much fun seeing people getting up and doing it and experiencing the same thing that I love experiencing. And it's the same thing in racing. When I see other people suddenly get a corner perfectly right, and I know exactly how it feels inside the seat and behind the steering wheel, I'm just as happy as when I do it myself. And I guess it's exactly the same thing when you see people hitting their notes perfectly and having a smile on their face after performing. So I can relate to that. Yay! I love that. I'm learning so much about you just like right now. I didn't know any of that. So what advice would you have for people who are just passionate about things that are maybe not the traditional engineering or doctor routes or anything like that? Do you have any advice for passionate people who might, want to consider turning their passions into a career?
I think there's always a route to pursue your passion. The question is to what extent, are you willing to put things on the line? I guess for me, just to take that again as an example, it was always clear that before committing to dedicating all my time to my passion, which was racing, I first had to have a proper degree in school and finish school properly, to have something done in your life that you can go back to in case, it doesn't.
Because it doesn't always work out, not necessarily because you did anything wrong.
Exactly.
Or not good enough, or it just
I'm not a fan of having backup plans because you want to be committed as well.
Yeah.
But you need to have some sort of a safety net, I would call it. I think that's probably the right word. To what level you want to put that to, how far are you okay with falling? I don't know. I think that's very individual. Yeah. But I would recommend a safety net, but you don't necessarily need the plan B. You want to be committed. You want to say, look, man, that's what I'm doing and I'm going to give it all for that. And I'm not worrying about, spending half an hour a day to make sure my plan B is in place. I think that can be a distraction. But for some people, it gives them some sort of a safety feeling as well. So I think it's very individual. For me personally, that was how I felt. I wanted a safety net, and then I was ready to commit to the passion.
Well, for you, it worked out, right? It doesn't always work out, but it worked out for you. What would you say was the biggest factor for you that it did end up working out?
Good question. Again, the right people around me. I think there I was just very, very lucky to.
And the right people, support. How?
I mean, it starts with family, right? If you don't have your closest ones with you on the way, it becomes hard. If you are alone on that road, I'm sure I wouldn't have done it. And then along the way, I think you also meet people that you realize, oof, that's people I don't want to work with. Yeah. And then making the right decisions, being also confident enough to say no at points, to
maybe turn down a good opportunity because it wasn't with the right people. Yeah,
exactly. Find your own way. Your basically what's sort of your values that you stick to that make you feel good, and then I think that's what I always tried to stick to when I took decisions on the way. Being true to myself, I guess. I think that's really it. I mean, in this sport, it's a lot about pleasing other people because you are relying on choices of other people to be able to make a career out of it. It's not like when you are the best driver, you're automatically going to make you're going to make it into F1 or Formula E or the World Endurance Championship, which are the championships where you can, do it professionally, or IndyCar. So find the right balance, between saying, look, you guys need me, but also not changing too much for them. I think that is another thing. Maybe in my case, also realizing that, yes, it's about driving fast. Yes, it's about talent. But not only that, when you are racing for teams or brands, you're also representing them. So what can I do outside of the track to be attractive, for brands, for teams, to make the difference compared to others? Because there's many that can drive fast. Yeah. So maybe that helped a little bit. I don't know. In the end, I never asked the people who hired me what made the difference compared to others. Yeah. But I could imagine that was a small factor. But in the end, I guess it's trying to be the very best at what you're doing, and other people will recognize, I hope.
Yeah. I think the last 2 points that you mentioned are kind of going towards just being easy to work with too. Not being a dick. Excuse my French. Like representing yourself in a,
Yes, maybe easy to work with, maybe, but I don't think you need to be easy to work with. I think you need to be easy to put in places, where they need you. And you don't want to be babysitted, when they send you to an event to represent a sponsor, when you have to stand on a stage and answer to some silly questions, or go and sign autographs, that you're not sitting on the table and, making a face like, why am I being here? Yeah. You know what I mean? Stuff like that you're able to look beyond the racetrack and see, look, that is these people, they do it because they have to represent the brand or whatever, and you are part of that team. So you need to be able to stand in front of a camera and,
give interviews.
It helps if you speak decent English. In our case here in Europe, if you speak a bit of French or Italian and stuff,
German.
It's all these little things that maybe contribute. I'm not sure, but I would say it definitely doesn't hurt.
Well, that brings up a good point. Like racing, like the actual time that you spend on the racetrack is such a small portion of your job. It's the same thing for singers. The actual time you spend in the studio recording a song, or you're on stage performing for somebody, which is, the thing that you want to do, is actually a very small portion of your job.
Exactly.
How do you deal with that? Because I assume you want to race, not really do interviews. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, honestly, you start to... These ones, they are fun because you get to know, interesting people more from a different perspective. And sometimes you get to learn a lot of stuff for yourself as well. So I learned to enjoy that part as well.
Okay, cool.
In the beginning, you go like, okay, just give me a car. Where can I drive? But you learn to enjoy it, I would say. And then I think it also has nice sides that you actually... Every race stays a highlight. You know what I mean? It's not like, I do it every weekend. Yeah, fair enough. Just another race. Yeah. No, everyone is kind of important. It's special. I always get super nervous still before every race. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it doesn't become normal, which I think is cool. It's a privilege. I've now been doing it for, if you count the karting years, 21, 22 years. So
we're getting old, Nico.
Yes. So yes, honestly, I think it has some cool sides to it. But especially when you're young and, an up and coming racing driver, it's sometimes difficult because, again, you get to practice so little. You would like to drive more and more and more. But on the other hand, yes, now I'm 33 and I still feel like, man, when they call me up, you can do an extra race. I'm happy about it. It's my job, and I still like to go and do more of it. So I actually see it as a positive.
Okay. I love that. I guess you already kind of answered that question about, like, what do you do when you don't really see the results, when things are not going the way you want it to? Like, you're kind of like, should I quit? Should I do something else? Or like, how do you like find that balance of like, no, like I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep trying. Because at the end of the day, you do love it, even when there's days or even a whole season where like, man, I'm barely getting any points, I'm never on the podium, like what is happening? You're not getting the results, but you still don't want to quit. But like, what do you do to keep motivating yourself to show up, you know?
It's a good question. Also because I think racing again is a pretty particular sport when it comes to that, because there's so many factors that are outside of your control that very directly influence the result. So we're coming back to the point where like, look, as long as I feel like I do my job as best as I can and I've left, no stone unturned, I can accept defeat, let's say. But when I feel like, man, I screwed up, I didn't put enough effort into the preparation, I've not spent enough time with my engineers, I should have done, another half a day on the simulator to try and go through procedures and stuff, then it's tough because, again, then it comes back to the other topic. There's only very few opportunities during the year to prove that you can win races. And when you screw one up because of your own fault, then I get frustrated and I need at least a day to recover from it. But I really needed to look for methods or tricks to try and make that recovery phase efficient mentally. Because if you gruel over it for too long, if you dig and dig again, why, what should have done, blah blah, then you risk going into that downward spiral as well. So you accept defeat, you analyze why it happened, and then you try again, which sounds easy, is sometimes not, because again, there's a lot that's up for that's on the stakes, or what do you call it, on the so that's something I think that I've lately, after my 30s probably, put the most effort into understanding and getting better at, I would say. Because when you're riding the wave, I would call it, and things go well and you have a great team, your car is performing, you're consistently at the front, things are easy. I mean, then,
of course.
When you have those years, you don't even realize how good of a life you have, because because then you're upset when you finish second and next day you win again and it feels normal, which is never normal. And then you have the years where I also had that, where you have a car that's not competitive, but you have a great team and you do a good job and you feel good and happy, and sometimes a P4 or a P7 feels like a win. And when you know why a P4 or a P7 is the maximum, and the day you achieve it, it does feel like a win. I think it's a good thing as well, even though that can only go on for a certain amount of time, right? If you have 2, 3, 4 years going that way, I think it's also not good. You need to be able to raise that bar again. You need to put yourself into the position to go and fight for victories. When you feel like you have, I would say, parts of the recipe to be successful, which very briefly summed up is probably yourself doing the job, the car, and the team. And when you have your own thing under control, that's okay. When you have another one of the two and it's only one that's missing and you cannot really control it, then it becomes difficult. But also that you try and learn to manage. I think the biggest challenge is when things are not going well for a certain amount of time, to not have that affect your own performance. Because it's very easy to become frustrated from things you can't control when they go on for a certain amount of time. If it's 1 weekend, 2, fair enough. I think it's not that hard. But I think that's the reason why you sometimes see high-performing people having, a run of great results, and then suddenly a run of 1 or 2 years where nothing goes their way. And it's not just because, they've had, a bad season, because that's how things go. I think it's because it's hard to find your feet again and get out of that sort of negative momentum. And that's what I've tried to be studying the last couple of years, and it's been a very interesting path, I would say.
Don't dwell in the like, I don't want to say negativity, but in the not optimal experiences, and analyze, see what you can do better, move on, try again, right? And try and do better next time. But it's important to not just quit. Because I remember, Mommy, do you remember? She's back there in the in the bedroom over there because it's almost 10 o'clock now. But Mommy, remember when I asked you if I had to school every morning because I cracked on stage during a Pausenkonzert once, during a concert in front of the whole school. I cracked on the high note. And after that, for a couple weeks, I asked if I really had to go to school, and I never wanted to go again, and I was so embarrassed. But you have to go again, and you have to try again. That's the only way to do it. Yeah. But anyways, thank you. Thank you so much, Nico, for sharing your experience.
Pleasure.
In the racing world, I see so many parallels to just people of passion in general. Music is a part of that as well. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, I'm very happy. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Where can people follow you if they're at all interested in racing?
I mean, social media is one way to kind of be in touch with what's going on at the very moments, I guess. At the moment, I'm mainly racing in Formula E, which is the world championship for electric Formula cars. Very exciting. Definitely worth watching. And I do some endurance racing as well. Some in the US at the moment, actually.
Yes, he's going to be in my city next month. Yes.
I think it's still a secret, but yeah.
Oh, well, good. I mean, by the time this episode comes out, your race is probably already over.
All good. So. All good. Yeah, so some GTP, they call it. Hypercars that do endurance racing. Okay. Beautiful cars, fast, fun to drive, and cool to watch.
I always enjoy coming to the track so much, even though it's a lot of waiting around and it's a lot of downtime, boring time for us, like, you know, coming to see you because the race, again, is a short time. But I always admire, you know, watching you, what you do. I remember at one point you were juggling before getting in the car.
Yeah, I tried that out as well for probably a couple of years even.
Is that for concentration? Or?
Yeah, and again, getting the sort of body connected to the mind, because it's movements that kind of trigger your mind. Okay, we're gonna go racing now. And I just wanted to prove myself that I can juggle, you know, with basically being half blindfolded with 4 balls in the air and stuff. That is something that's just practice. It's nothing, it's no talent needed. And then I thought it was cool to do that before getting in the car. I guess it was more that than anything else.
Okay.
But yeah, I tried it. It worked, but I'm not doing it anymore. I hope I could still do it.
Okay, well, let's put it to the test. Let's go find some balls. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm super, super proud of you. You've always been very inspiring to me, seeing like all the sacrifices that you've made to get to the point where you're at, but also staying true to yourself and working really, 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 really friggin' hard. And it's paid off. You live a beautiful life with a beautiful family, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Thank you very much. I can only give that back.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yep, lots of respect. I wouldn't have moved to the US without knowing what's waiting for me.
Remember
when I was
your talent scouting thing in Sacramento?
Yeah, I think it was, yeah.
We went as the whole family. I think you were 16. I was 12 at that point. And didn't you win?
I did, yeah.
And he turned it down?
I was scared.
And I was like, dude, this is my dream. Living in the United States, following my passions, and he turns it down?
Yeah. The excuse was that I had to finish school back home.
Yeah.
No, honestly, yeah, it was cool, but I think that was your dream to live.
Of course.
It's not something I regret, but it was a cool experience.
Yeah, it was a totally different kind of racing too. It would have been
oval racing, which was super exciting as well.
Yeah, just different, but turned out anyways.
Merci.
Love you, Nico. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for following along. If you want to follow Nico and his journey, I'll link to his social media below. Go check it out. Otherwise, we'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.